All right, good morning, traders. Today's June 3rd, 2025. My name is John Kerrigan. I'm the lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. Let's talk about how I plan this trade SPY today. Well, before we get into that, let's go ahead and do a little summary of what happened yesterday. All right, let's start off with... All right, so good morning, not members and visitors, but everybody here today. Thanks for being here. My SPY pivot this morning, 589.90. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. All of the Fab 5 are still in daily uptrends. SPY, Diamond Dow, QQQ, and FNGB made higher lows and higher highs, closing over their traps, over their 17 EMAs. IWM made a lower high and a lower low, but still closed over a bullish cross, and over the 17 EMA. SPY closed with a 2-hour uptrend and a 10-minute uptrend. Gold and silver, both in daily uptrends, both made higher lows and higher highs, closing over their traps, over their 17s. USO, UNG, both in daily downtrends, both made higher lows and higher highs, closing over their traps, over their 17s. U.S. dollar index still in a downtrend. We like that. Closed near the 99.72 area. SPY max pain for today is 590. That's the options that expired today. All right, with a put to call ratio of about 1 put to each call. That expires today at 4:15. All right. Oh yeah, before I get started, our other service here, Right Way Options, Doug Campbell, he's going to provide a 3/8 trap class, and that's tomorrow. All right, and that's tomorrow at 2:30. All right, he's going to show you how to find 3/8 traps. He's going to show you how to filter the good ones from the bad ones. He's going to help you build a plan. It's going to help you with entries, goals, and stops, and he's going to answer a lot of questions, and he's going to record it for you. And he's going to provide some learning material as well. As far as I remember, every class that I've ever been to, he's provided some learning material to go along with all of that. All right, and that price is $350, and the registration will be in the link inside the description of the video. Hey, good morning, Julie. All right, let's go take a look at some charts today. All right, let's start off with SPY. Start off with 10-minute. All right, see, we got a 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. We got 3 EMAs up over the white 8 EMA, so that's a 10-minute uptrend all over the 17 EMA, over the VWAP there, over the, this is the high, the rally high anchored VWAP right there. We're up over that rally high anchored VWAP, so there's 10-minute uptrend into the close. Yesterday, that would be Monday. Let's take a look at the 2-hour. 2-hour, we had a little 2-hour uptrend into the close. That would be yesterday, Monday. Nice candle right there. Okay, so 2-hour uptrend, 10-minute uptrend. Let's look at the daily chart. All right, daily chart, we've got a higher low, higher high closing over the trap, over the rising, over the flat 17, over the rally high anchored VWAP, also over the all-time high anchored VWAP, over the uptrend line right there. You can see price up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish. All right. Price has moved up and holding the higher ground. That is a bullish environment. Whenever I see price move up, hold that higher ground, move. It's moving. Try it again. Move. What's going on? All right, let me just fix this, okay? Drawing tool's not working this morning. It's always something. Always got to be something. Always. Just to interrupt and break up the flow. Always got to be something. Epic pen. End task. Epic pen. Open up. Bear with me here. Malfunction on the software. Let's try it again. All right, so price moves up and holds the higher ground up here. Okay, that's a bullish environment. Okay, whenever price goes up and comes back, that's a neutral environment. Okay, you go up, you give it up, that's a neutral environment. Okay, when price moves up like this, holds that higher ground, that's a bullish environment. Okay, so we could look at the 10-minute and the 2-hour after we look at the daily chart. Okay, so now you can see everything up over the uptrend line, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's all bullish. Up over the trap, closed over the trap, closed over the 17, closed up in quadrant 4. That's bullish. This is the all-time high. We are within striking distance of the all-time high. I'm telling you, all it takes is one tweet and we're there. All right, so that's pretty darn close right there. All right, so let's see what happens here today. Looking good, okay? Daily chart is in an uptrend because it's making higher lows and higher highs. All right, 2-hour, 2-day chart. Two-day chart, not in an uptrend, okay? But here's the good news. It's not moving down, okay? Not in an uptrend. Here's the first peak over the 17, is right here. All right, so we still have not made a higher high. Here's the good news. We're not moving down. We're moving up, and we're holding the higher ground. That's a bullish environment. That's the 2-day chart. 3-day chart, still in a downtrend because we haven't made a higher high yet. Okay, so there's SPY. 3-day chart, still haven't made the higher high. All right, there's the first one we come to over the 17. We still have not cleared that 17 yet up there. All right, so it's still in a downtrend, but here's the good news again. We're not moving down. Same deal on the weekly chart. All right, again, that's the first one we come to over the 17. We have not cleared and made a higher high yet. All right, but the good news is we're not moving down. We're hanging out. We're moving up. On the monthly chart, we're still in an uptrend, okay, because we haven't made a lower low. So price action's moving up. So uptrend is there, okay, uptrend. We're still in that uptrend. And usually what happens on the low side happens on the high side. So I'm looking for a big whip exhaustion candle up into the sky. We'll see what happens. Okay, so there's SPY on the monthly chart. Now, the options I like, the setups that I like today, all right, and I have liked probably in the past 3 or 4 weeks, all right, are I like these 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. Now you can see we had a nice 10-minute uptrend, not a nice one, but we had a 10-minute uptrend over VWAP right here. Okay, that was what we traded yesterday. 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. All right, so I like those 10-minute uptrends over VWAP that are inside those 2-hour uptrends, that are inside those daily uptrends, that are inside the monthly uptrends, okay? They just have a higher probability of working out. As you can see yesterday, nice rally right there into the close. That was also a trend day. If you don't know what a trend day is, that's when price, the 3 and the 8 and the 17 all stacked up over VWAP between the hours of 11 and noon. Okay, usually when you get a trend day, typically what happens is price closes near the high of the day at the end of the day. Most of the time, okay? Most of the time you're going to get a closing at near the high of the day at the end of the day, okay? Or pretty close to it, all right? Sometimes there's trend days and we have pullbacks. Let's talk about the game plan. And some reason we're getting crunched here. Let's move it over. All right, for the options for today, I like 3 days till expiration Friday options. I like 10 days till expiration Friday options. I like those because they got higher open interest. Higher open interest means higher liquidity. Higher liquidity means a tighter bid-ask spread, and that's what I like to trade. Something that does not have a wide slippage amount in there. I like them. I like the strikes to be on the multiples of 5. So for instance, 590, 595, 600. All right, you get the picture. Okay, I like them $5 to $15 out of the money. They're much cheaper when they're $5 to $15 out of the money. Now they don't offer the performance that an in the money 0 DTE is going to give you. That's going to give you almost penny for penny performance. All right, but I'm willing to sacrifice a little performance, all right, in order to take on a little bit less risk. All right, so I like that. I like to take on a little bit less risk, especially now that I've started a new 27K account, and I want to take on a little bit less risk because I don't want to blow that account up. I want to build it up. As soon as I get it built up to like over 31, 33, 3K, then I can start thinking about some other stuff, all right? Some other strategies to trade as well. All right, so SPY pivot, 589.90. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Green erases red. First entry price over 592.65. Red erases green, okay? That would be first entry price is going to be underneath 587. Now, it's a pretty wide range from here to here. I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, all right? There'll be times where I will not wait, all right, for price to have a green erases red event. All right, I won't wait. All right, if it's up over pivot and I got a 10-minute uptrend, it's over VWAP, I'll probably be in it. Downtrends, all right, again, there'll be times I won't even wait. I won't wait for price to have a red erases green event. Okay, it'll be a 10-minute downtrend. It'll be under VWAP, and it'll be probably under the pivot. All right, there's times that I will play or trade 10-minute downtrends under VWAP, 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. Okay, so there's the SPY game plan for this morning. All right, let's take a look at the QQQ game plan. Then we're going to come back and we're going to revisit this with the pre-market activity on, so I can kind of map out what I see and show you what I'm probably going to be trading this morning, because that's why you're all watching the videos, how I'm going to trade SPY this morning. All right, let's go ahead and hit QQQ. All right, here's QQQ game plan. QQQ pivot, 520.15. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Bullish green erases red over 523.10. Red erases green underneath 517.15. Again, I like 3-day TE, 3 days till expiration, Friday options. I like 10 days till expiration, Friday options. All right, I like $5 to $15 out of the money strike prices. I like multiples of 5. Okay, so 520. See, we're here. I like 520. I like 515. I like 510. You're going to have more open interest on those multiples of 5 on those strike prices inside there. Okay, so there's QQQ game plan. All right. Again, above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Again, I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, and I like 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. I like the downtrends when they're under the pivot. I like the uptrends when they're over the pivot. All right. I'm not going to wait for a green erases red event. All right. If I already have a 10-minute uptrend that's breaking away from VWAP, I will probably most likely trade that. Okay, so there's QQQ. Let's go back to SPY. And this time, we're going to put on the pre-market activity. Okay, so here's our pre-market activity. You can see, here's this. If we get a pullback to a higher low, so okay, in other words, if I see price take out this low, okay, green erases red. So if I see price come in, take out this low where we got a 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. All right, so if we take out this low right there, okay, right below this line, okay, right below that, and we're under VWAP, I will most likely take a short trade to the downside. Okay. On the flip side, let's trash that out. Okay, if we have red erases, green erases red. So what would the red be? The red would be, trash that out, get the box. Okay, so a pullback from this area right here, pull back from this area here down to there. Okay, and I'll be looking for a green to erase red. Okay, right up over that. So like an entry right through here. All right, right in there. That would be green erases red. See the pullback in the red? See, we got a pullback. Now green's going to come back in and fill that pullback. All right, probably even fill the gap. All right, so that's what I'm looking for, is a continuation of the 10-minute uptrend that we left off with yesterday. That's what I'm looking for. Continuation of that 10-minute uptrend. So I'll be looking for, all right, green candles. I just don't want any topping wick candles. Okay, something that's got more wick like this than body and tail. Won't trade that. All right, I don't want any dojis. Don't want any spinning tops. Okay, spinning tops and dojis tell me bulls and bears are green on the price. I don't want any red candles because red candles show me bearish control. I don't want any topping wicks because they show me bearish control. All right, so I don't want any red candles. I don't want any topping wick candles. And I don't want any dojis or spinning tops. All right, that's what I'm looking for this morning, for a continuation of the same 10-minute uptrend that we left off with yesterday. All right, that's how I plan to trade SPY today. And then again, you saw it underneath the pivot here where this pre-market pullback. If we have a red erases green, so here's the green from this low up to this high. If we have a red erases green below this area right here, below 589.20, I will be interested in a 10-minute downtrend, all right, to the downside under 589.20. Okay, under 589.20. I like that to the downside. Will it probably pull back and test this area? Yes. Okay, so look for that confirmation candle that prices are still going down once it gets to the pivot. You don't want it to bounce on you. You don't want to take a put trade and have that thing bounce on you. All right, so there's SPY on the 10-minute chart. There's a little plan for this morning how I'm going to trade SPY. All right, let's go take a look at the charts again. Let's start off with this one. Let's start off with QQQ. All right, QQQ on the daily. Again, higher low, higher high, closing. Nah, QQQ didn't get a higher high. I thought they all did. I'm on the wrong chart. Okay, I knew something was up. All right, daily chart. Yeah, higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17 EMA, closing over the uptrend line, closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, closing up in the upper third up here on quadrant 4. That's all bullish. Notice price action moves up, okay, and it's holding that higher ground. Again, we're moving up, holding the higher ground. That is a bullish environment. We're up over the uptrend line. We're up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, and we're in an uptrend because we made a higher low and a higher high. So here's a high, we made a higher high. Here's a low, we made a higher low. Okay, so that's an uptrend right there. All right, let's go take a look at IWM. Okay, IWM a little bit different. All right, lower high, lower low, closing over the trap, over the 17, over the uptrend line here. Is moving up and holding higher ground. Okay, just not quite as bullish as we would like to see it. is moving up and holding that higher ground as opposed to moving up and giving it up. All right, because that's just neutral environment. All right, we're up and we're holding that higher ground. That's bullish. We're up over the uptrend line. We're caught underneath this all-time high anchored VWAP, but the good news is we're knocking on the door. We're caught on the bearish side of the midpoint. All right, so we'll see what happens with that. But all in all, I like the performance that we've got so far. I just need a little bit more. I like to see us up over that all-time high anchored VWAP. I don't like the idea that we're getting squashed from the all-time anchored VWAP up here overhead. I don't like that, okay? But I think if we could see a pop sometime this week to get up over there, we'll see what happens. There's IWM, all right? That's the daily chart, making higher lows and higher highs. So that's in an uptrend. That's bullish up here, but really it's acting bullish, but it's still in neutral territory, okay? Not in the lower third, not in the upper third. All right, so there's IWM. All right, let's take a look at Diamond Dow. All right, Diamond Dow for yesterday put in lower high. Yeah, lower high and a lower high and a lower low, but closed over the bullish trap, over the 17 EMA, over the uptrend line, closed over the all-time high anchored VWAP, closed over the downtrend line, closed in the upper third, so that's bullish, moving up, holding the higher ground, that's bullish, making higher lows and higher highs, that's an uptrend. Let's take a look at FNGB. Price action for FNGB, higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap, over the 17 EMA, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish, over the uptrend line, all right? Everything here, bullish. Just want to look at Diamond Dow one more time. Yeah, that really was a lower high and a lower low. Okay, just checking it out. All right, let's take a look at our technicals, T2122. You can see we got a little downtrend line, kind of an invisible downtrend line on T2122. We seem to be getting swatted down by that downtrend line every time we come up to it. And we keep making lower lows. All right, but this is our pullback. Right now we're in consolidation over to the right for price action for IWM or Russell 2000 T2123. So here's T2122. Again, we made this would be the 30th. We made a higher high. All right, but the bears threw us out of there, and we wound up taking a deep ride into the seller's chop zone here, and ever since that low put in, we made higher lows and little mini higher highs, managing to close back inside the buyer's chop zone, but still underneath this downtrend line right through there. Okay, so there's T2122. T2123, we're looking at, we want the 15-minute. Okay, you can see price action just moving over to the right. Again, this is the rally high. Started from way back here. Okay, and each day, I want you to know, we've been making higher highs on this rally. So there's the high right here. Okay, so here's the high for yesterday. Here's the high for Friday. Here's the high for Thursday. Here's the high for Wednesday, the high for Tuesday, the high for Monday. Notice each day making higher high in the rally. Price action is up over the 200 SMA. That's bullish. All right. Price action is moving up and holding the higher ground. Notice price action here moves up and holds this higher ground, that's bullish. Price action's up over that daily downtrend line, that's bullish. Price action making higher lows and higher highs, also bullish. That's T2123. All right, let's take a look at T2123 on the 3-bar chart. Okay, it's the same product, just a bigger time frame. Okay, again, we're moving up. We're moving up and holding that higher ground. Okay, didn't want that big. Okay, we're moving up, holding the higher ground. That's a bullish environment. We're up over that 200 SMA. That's bullish. We're up over the downtrend line. That's a daily downtrend line. That's bullish. Okay, we got a high right here. All right, and we're making higher highs. All right, up here, and we have consolidation. Okay, up over prior consolidation. So we'll draw a little box around that. Not the best box, but let's try it one more time. Okay, so there's that consolidation. You can see it's up over all of this consolidation. Okay, so you've got consolidation over prior consolidation. That's a bullish environment. All right, so T2123, market's still bullish. Okay, we have not turned the corner yet. Okay, everything is still looking good. So again, on SPY, I like those 10-minute uptrends over VWAP inside of 2-hour uptrends that are inside of daily uptrends that are inside of monthly uptrends. Okay, those 10-minute uptrends over VWAP have a high probability of working out because we've got a 2-hour uptrend, a daily uptrend, and a monthly uptrend. Okay, and they're all inside of each other. And, the 2 hours inside the daily, daily's inside the monthly. All right, and they're all up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, so 10-minute uptrends have a high probability of working, okay, over VWAP when we're over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Downtrends have probably not the best success rate working to the downside, okay? Probably not going to be as deep and as far as we'd like to see them on those downtrend lines. You'll get more failures on your downtrend lines when you're trading counter trend because everything's moving up. Counter trend would be a downtrend, all right? So downtrends are probably going to fail more often than uptrends will succeed, all right? So just be careful, all right, when you're trading counter trend. So there's T2123. All right, here's FNGB, all right? And why are we waiting? Okay, I got it. All right, price action, all right? Green from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, okay? They didn't even stop to go to the bar, all right? They were buying from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. Notice we're up over the 200 SMA. That's bullish. Notice we're making a higher high. That's bullish. Well, pretty much challenging the recent high. That's bullish. Okay, we're up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish. Up over the uptrend line, also bullish. So FNGB 15-minute uptrend. Notice we got some sloppy consolidation over prior consolidation. Let's take a look at that. Okay, you can see price action kind of consolidating. I don't know why it does this to me. I just want to show a nice picture. Okay, so you got consolidation up over prior consolidation. See that? That's a bullish environment right there. Okay, see now we dipped down and we recovered almost immediately. All right, that's a bullish environment. So there's FNGB. All right, let's go take a look at a few sectors. All right, let's start off with XLE. All right, XLE is still down here in the lower third, so that's bearish. We're in an uptrend, but get this, we're not moving up. We're still caught underneath downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2, and underneath this 12-month high anchored VWAP, We're in the lower third, so that's bearish. We're in an uptrend. We just haven't moved up in 13 days. XLE. Let's take a look at, that's bearish down there, by the way. Okay, in the lower third. Let's take a look at USO. Higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17. Not in the lower third, so that's neutral. All right, no up. Starts an uptrend. I'll call it an uptrend. They took out this high right here. Not much of a high, but they did. Starts an uptrend. I guess yesterday. Make it a little higher high. All right, on USO. Still caught underneath this 3-year high anchored VWAP. That's the pink line. Okay. Remember, they just broke out of the bearish zone. That's the lower third. So they're just neutral right here. And they started a new uptrend. So there's USO. UNG. UNG still caught in a downtrend. Okay, because they got a low here. They made a lower low. That's a downtrend. We got underneath this downtrend line. Price action is a higher low and a higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17, and over this 12-month high anchored VWAP right there. Still caught underneath the downtrend line. Still in a downtrend. We haven't made a higher high yet. All right. And we're no longer in the lower third. That would be bearish, so they're just neutral. So both UNG and USO, neutral. Yes, overnight and pre-market selling, yes. On SPY, Fido says observation, uptrend days, overnight and pre-market selling. Yes, overnight selling, but pre-market, we're buying. We're not up over where we closed. Okay, if we look at this on with the pre-market right here on a 10-minute. Okay, so yes, it was overnight selling, but you can see we are filling the overnight selling gap. All right, see them closing the gap now. Okay, and for the most part, yes, overnight selling and pre-market selling, yes. So pre-market we're not selling, but there was overnight selling. Right now in the pre-market we got some buying. Yes, and I see what you're saying. So there's SPY. All right, let's take a look at gold and silver. Let's go back here on the daily chart. Let's look at GLD. Higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. We're way up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish. All right, we made a higher high, so we're now in an uptrend. All right, and we're up over the uptrend line. We're up in quadrant 4. That's bullish. We're making higher lows and higher highs. That's an uptrend. Price action is looking good for gold. That's bullish up there in upper quadrant number 4 up here. Okay, so that's bullish. SLV, higher low, higher high. Wow, look at that candle. That's in an uptrend, making higher lows and higher highs. All right, they're up over the downtrend line. They're up over this. It's a 12-year high anchored VWAP right there. All right, not the all-time high. It's a 12-year high anchored VWAP. And it doubles as a 6-month high anchored VWAP. All right, we're up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish. We have higher lows and higher highs. That's an uptrend. So there's silver. Let's take a look at SMH. All right, SMH still neutral, not in the upper third. Up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Up over the downtrend line. Making higher lows and higher highs. That's bullish. Moving up and holding the higher ground. That's bullish. Okay, still neutral right here. All right, not quite in the upper third. XLK. All right, this is closing up over the trap. That's bullish. Over the 17. That's bullish. Over the uptrend line. That's bullish. Over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Also bullish. Up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish. Making higher lows and higher highs. Okay, so that's bullish right there and in an uptrend. XLK. Let's take a look at XLF. Same deal. All right. Notice XLK, XLF moving up, holding that higher ground. Okay, closing over the trap, that's bullish. Closing over the 17, that's a bullish. Price action up over the all-time high anchored VWAP, also bullish. Again, up there in quadrant 4, that's bullish. All right, way up there, quadrant 4. Making higher lows and higher highs, that's an uptrend. So there's XLF. Okay, now be prepared to get disappointed. This is a transports. We really need transports to support this rally. Okay, and they're just really not doing it as strongly as we'd like to see. Okay, so we got a higher low and a higher high. We got an uptrend. All right. Actually, we have a downtrend because there's a low and we just made a lower low. All right, that's not a good sign. All right, transports are going to show us when products are getting moved around the country, when materials are being moved around the country, when the correct personnel, people are being moved around the country or globally, either one. All right, so you want your transports to be good. All right, currently we have a bull flag. All right, I'm going to call it like it is. All right, it's a move up, and you can see we have ourselves a little bull flag right here. Okay, but we're in a downtrend. Not a very strong bull flag, but nonetheless, it's still a bull flag. I need to see price up over the 17 more often than under, well, over the trap more often than under the trap. You can see price action spending a lot more time under the trap, closing there under the trap, there under the trap, there. We're spending a lot of time underneath the trap than we are over the trap. Okay, that's not a good sign. All right, but we are in a bull flag. That's a good sign. We're up over the midpoint. All right, so we're on the bullish side of neutrality. That's a good sign. Barely closing over the uptrend line. We're still just not over that all-time high anchored VWAP. We were up there for a week, a couple weeks ago, but we haven't made it back since. All right, so we really need transports to show up. All right, maybe it's coming. Maybe they're late to the party. Tech usually always leads everything. Okay, so there's transports right there. I want to see goods and services being moved around. All right, I'm not feeling it yet, but I am looking at a bull flag. All right, we are up, consolidating over prior consolidation. I guess I should recognize that. Okay, again, you get consolidation. Try it again. You get consolidation over prior consolidation. Okay, all of that, that's a bullish environment. Okay, just lingering way too long here. All right, I guess it has to, because otherwise it wouldn't be called consolidation, would it? If they just have one candle and they keep moving higher, can't really call that consolidation. So I guess this is the way it has to look. It's going to be slow and deliberate. All right, I'll take it. All right, just wish it would move a little faster before SPY and QQ lose their mojo. All right, kind of need this to get moving soon. All right, otherwise, you got SPY, QQQ could start losing the mojo. The interest could start coming out. We could start seeing a pullback. All right, so we need IWM to get on board. And right now, making a new downtrend yesterday was not the on board that I'm looking for. Okay, I like on board would be over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That would be on board. Closing over the trap. That would be getting on board. But starting a new downtrend, definitely not getting on board. Okay, so this is what do they call it? The red herring in the bird box there. Okay, IYT. Not really working out. Not really helping us yet. So, all right, so there's that. All right, let's take a look at, so not going to kind of get that robust rally we're looking for. You get those robust rallies when tech's on fire, which it is. Financials on fire, which they are. All right. And the transports on fire, which they're not. Okay. We do have FNGB. That's on fire. That's looking good. All right. And we have T2123. That's looking good, except for the daily chart. Still has not turned into an uptrend. Okay. So T2123 on the 15 minutes still in an uptrend. The 3-bar chart still in an uptrend. Still haven't got that uptrend on the daily chart. Okay, so there's IYT. The good news is they're not moving down. They're moving up and holding that higher ground. All right, so there's IYT. Let's look at the economic package, and we'll call it a day. All right, SPY-Max pain for today, 590. That's for the puts and calls that expired today. Okay, and we got a put-to-call ratio of about 1 put to each call. U.S. dollar index still in a downtrend. Okay, making lower highs, looking for a lower low. I'll take it if they want to give it to us. We closed down here near the 98.64 area. Okay, near 98.64. All right, so there's U.S. dollar index still in a downtrend. Still caught underneath this minor resistance right here. Okay, so we like that. All right, because that makes our goods and services more affordable globally when we have a weak dollar. All right, China gets a lot of business because they got weak currency. All right, they get a lot of business. Hence, they put a lot of their people to work. All right, not great for the consumer, but it's great for the business. All right, and great for the country. All right, so let's take a look at economic calendar. Kind of a light week this week. No really headliners. Factory orders come out at 10. Jolts 10. Light day today, tomorrow. MBA mortgage applications. ADP employment report at 8:15. PMI composite final 9:45. ISM and services index comes out at 10. Petroleum report at 10:30. That's it. There's nearly no main events. I'll get to the rest of the week later on. Okay, that's it. All right, as far as earnings go, the main event this week, all right, it's going to be Thursday night. It's going to be AVGO. All right? Broadcom's going to report after the close, probably around 4:30. All right? So watch Broadcom for Thursday night. Everything else is just familiar names that's really not going to move the markets. Okay? Nothing really going to move the markets. All right, as far as earnings go, other than Broadcom, which is about $1.1 trillion. All right, so that's it for me for today. Okay, going to wrap this up. I'll see you guys in about 30 minutes. Put your questions in there. I'll do my best to answer those as soon as possible. All right, so that's it for the morning prep. Thank you, everybody.